All right, Fusion Lesson 3. So this one's another easy one, but we're going to progressively be getting harder here soon. So with this one, we're going to talk a little bit more about dimensions, but let's create a little sketch here. And you can select any plane, but try and select this one with the green and red. That's the XY plane. And we're going to start with the line tool. And you've probably figured this out already, but you can actually sketch anywhere in here. You don't have to start at this center point. So we're going to use any point of this to create our sketch, and it really doesn't matter size, just keep it around 5 inches or so. We're going to dimension these later. And when you go up for this one, just making sure that you're snapping to get those 90-degree angles. We're not really concerned about any sizes, just try and match my shape. But for this one, I'm going to show you a little trick. We want to create an arced top to this, so just create a little short line here, doesn't matter the size. And when you click, hold on the click. And as you come across, you can see you get an arc. And there's a lot of different things going on here, but we're going to kind of create a mistake that we can fix later so I can show you one of the constraint tools. So I'm not going to bring it in line here where it snaps. I'm going to leave it a little high and let go, and it creates an arc right there. And we're going to continue down, and we want to make sure that we use these tracking lines. So right here, you can see how I get that dotted line. And if they don't show up, you can kind of force them by going over top of a point that you want to track with and moving up and finish the shape so we get a complete profile. Now, there's two ways to kind of switch off this tool and get the select tool. You can come up here and hit the select button, but if you just hit the escape key, that'll bring you back to select. See how it automatically highlights. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to fix this tangent here. You can see that this one's already tangent. That's what that little symbol here means. And constraints are going to force things to happen. So you have two options here. You can select the lines first, or you can select the constraint first if you kind of know the direction. But it will help you decide which one you should pick if you select the lines first. So if you hold the shift key so you can select multiple lines, we're going to select that vertical and our arc. It highlights the ones that applies. So what we're going to do is we're going to choose tangent, and it automatically fixes that arc so that that line becomes tangent. So the next thing that we want to do is we kind of need an anchor point. That's why we start at this origin. It gives us an anchor point for our dimensions. So we're going to move that. So I'm going to hit the escape to get rid of my tangent tool, or you can hit the select button. And I'm going to use my shift key again, and I'm going to select that center point, and then I'm also going to select my origin, my center. Now I have those two dots highlighted, and this one's should be here, and if you can't see any of these, they're going to be under this tab called constraint, but we're going to look for coincident. And coincident is just going to make sure that they kind of put the 2 points in the same position. So we're going to choose coincident, and it drops everything down. And now that little dot becomes black. That means that it's locked in place, and it's not going to change. And this is going to help keep everything from kind of going wonky on us, because if we change certain dimensions, what can happen is like this arc will just kind of expand randomly and get real big. So you always want to try and lock down any major arcing features first. So let's add in our dimensions. So we're going to start by choosing our width here. And if you remember in a previous video, I showed you the shortcut for the dimension tool. Where's it at? There's it. So I'm going to use the shortcut D, but you can always go into that menu and select your dimension. And when you dimension an object's width, you could grab this line, but we want to make sure that we say from this line to this line, it's a certain width. This helps lock everything in, and you'll see that things will kind of start going from blue lines to black lines. And we're going to choose 5 inches. So now we have a length. We're going to give a width, or we're going to try and center this on here. So I'm going to choose that center point of the circle. I'm going to choose that line using my dimension tool. And this one, we want it to be centered, so we're going to choose 2.5. Next, we're going to give a thickness to this part here. and we're going to choose those two lines, and we're going to make it 0.5. Now you notice this one didn't move with it. It's completely separate, but we can attach these two together so that the same dimension applies to both of them. So we're going to hit escape to get our select tool, where you can click up here, and we're going to hold the shift key, select both of those lines. And now what we're going to do is, it's not up in my top menu bar here, so I got to click this drop down. We're looking for something called collinear, and constrains two or more objects so that they share a common line, which is what we want. So we're going to choose collinear, and now they're the same. A few more dimensions to add here. We need to dimension our circle and tell how high it is. So first, let me dimension the circle. So click on the outside edge of the circle. We're going to make this, and this is a radius, so we're going to call it 1.25 inch and a quarter. And now we start getting more and more black lines. We're going to dimension this bottom line to the center of our circle as well. And this one is also going to be 1.25. And when you see all of these lines have turned black, that means the shape is fully dimensioned. And that's what you're looking for. You don't have to have this to start creating shapes, but it definitely prevents headaches later on if you can get all of these dimensioned. And having an anchor point like the origin is going to help make sure things stay dimensioned properly. So you can pause the video here if you need to get those dimensions, but once you have everything dimensioned correctly, you click Finish Sketch. You can use the Home button so that it lays nice and isometric. And we're going to choose our Extrude tool again. And for this one, we're going to go a thickness of 1.25 inch and a quarter. Trying to keep the dimensions simple just so that way it's easy to understand. Now, we want to put a hole through this, and I don't think we're ready for the hole tool, so we're just going to do that, create sketch again. We need to create a circle, and the easiest circle tool is definitely circle diameter, so we're going to choose that one. We're going to select our center point, and I want you to purposefully oversize this so that way we can get used to that dimension tool. It is the most powerful tool in all of this. Hit the escape key to get your selection arrow, and D for dimension. Select the circle, and this time it's a diameter. And just to keep things simple, we did a radius of 1.25 before. Now we're going to do a diameter of 1.25. And see the difference here, it's double the size. Click on Finish Sketch. You can do it here or up here. I'm going to use the Extrude again, select that circle, and we're going to punch it all the way through. Now we're going to push it part of the way through, and you see it switches to Cut. We're going to choose All, click OK, and we have a very basic shape. So let's add a few kind of finishing features here. Use your view cube to rotate around, get a good view. We're going to use the fillet tool. Select that, and we have another matching one here that we're going to put a fillet on. You can use the view cube to rotate around to make sure that you have the correct one. And we're going to put in a radius of 0.25. And that completes this part. Make sure that you take a screenshot and submit this to the assignment on Canvas.